Welcome to our presentation. We are so happy that you've decided to come and join us today. We would like you to know that this is a very interactive session and it would be so much different if you all were able to be with us in person.
With that being said, we have provided a supplies list in this presentation that'll be linked with this video, so you guys have the opportunity to make something either with us or some other time. We really wish we could be meeting all together because it would make this whole session way better.
Before we get this presentation rolling, we have a couple introductions to take care of so you guys know a little bit about each one of us.
We are a part of Byron Nelson Taffy chapter at Byron Nelson High School in Trophy Club, Texas, which is a part of Northwest ISD School District.
My name is Sydney Breinholt. I'm a sophomore as well as the vice president of our chapter. My plans are to go into music education, specifically the middle school level in band.
Okay, I am Morgan Carrick. I am also a sophomore and I am the historian at our school. And my career goal is to be a first grade teacher.
Hi, I'm Katie Kramer. I'm also a sophomore at Byron Nelson High School, and my career goal is to be a fifth grade teacher.
Hi, I'm Casey Rogers. My career goal is to be a first grade teacher or a special education teacher, and I am also a sophomore.
Today's session is called Foreseeing Your Wellbeing. We will be talking about mental health levels and how it affects the classroom, as well as the effect of COVID on each individual student.
You will also be hearing from some of our teachers in our district as they answer some questions we had for them.
And to top it all off, we will be creating 2 resources for you to take away from the conference, as well as teaching you guys how to use these tools in your classrooms today and in the future.
So to get this presentation going, we're going to open with a quick video. We went around and interviewed some teachers from around the district, so let's hear what they have to say.
Hi, my name is Sunday Foster, and I teach at Tidwell Middle School, and I teach 6th grade ELA and dyslexia. I've been in middle school for 5 years, and before that I taught elementary for 4 years, 1st grade.
Alright, so my name is Emily Moyes, and I've been teaching, this is my 6th year teaching, this is my 5th year teaching here at Byron Nelson High School, and for the last 5 years I've been teaching pre-AP biology to freshmen and AP biology to sophomores through seniors.
I'm Susanna Nielsen. I teach 2nd grade at Hughes Elementary, and this is my 16th year in the classroom teaching.
All right, my name is Shannon Sproles, and I teach at K. Granger Elementary. I teach 5th grade, and I teach ELA and social studies. I have been teaching for about 16, 17 years. Some of that I did as long-term sub, and some of that I've been in my own classroom.
Hi, my name is Angie Vaitai. I'm a 9th grade English teacher at Byron Nelson High School, and this is my 18th year of teaching.
Okay, my name is Miss Westman. I am an 8th grade teacher at Tidwell Middle School. I teach pre-AP, GT, Algebra 1. This is my 4th year of teaching.
Yeah, I think it affects the classroom setting. So I think like the 3 main things that it affects are probably like focus, motivation, and absences. So obviously the kids who are absent due to mental health reasons, I mean, you're missing a lot of school, but on top of that, it's not that you're just missing school, like you're really concerned about missing school. And lots of times that can also kind of add on to kids who are already experiencing mental health issues. It just increases their stress. As we know, stress can lead to depression and kind of that feeling that I can't get out of it. And then at that point, also losing motivation, because if you feel that you're so far behind and like you already just can't conquer the world, like how are you supposed to conquer this assignment? And then the last thing is, even kids who are in class can still struggle with the motivation part and the ability to stay focused on those things, and just to be able to just retaining their attention. Because again, you know, I have a lot of experience with anxiety and depression, but obviously a lot of other mental health things that it's detracting kind of from your ability to just, you know, work on this one thing. So you have a lot of other stuff going on in your brain at the same time.
Yeah, totally. Okay, yeah.
I definitely think that mental health is important when it comes to the classroom setting. I think in middle school, your emotions are very heightened. Even in high school, I mean, you're growing up and there's puberty and all that stuff. And I think that those emotions affect your learning, because if you have some drama going on at school or there's something that you're really worried about, you're not going to pay as much attention as you normally would, because you're kind of focused on what's happening in your life at the time. I've been there, we've all been there. So I definitely think mental health is important, and I think it's important for students to know that their teachers care about their mental health and care about where they're at emotionally, and have those check-ins and just kind of acknowledge that inside the classroom, no matter what the subject is.
I'm going to focus more on childhood just because I'm working with second graders, so they're younger. And I absolutely think you have to take care of their mental health and nurture their mental health and even teach them how to deal with mental health issues. So they have to have a way to cope with anxiety, and in a classroom situation where they're having to do things that are hard or that they don't feel successful at, you've got to help them know what to do to cope so that they're not crying and distraught when it's hard to read something or when math gets a little bit challenging.
I think the hardest thing about it is there's so many things that could be going on mentally that we just absolutely have no awareness of. And so I feel like that's really hard. Is it important to take care of it? 100%. But can we always, or do we always know about it? We don't. So it's one of the hard things.
Sadly, COVID has had a huge effect on classes. I think mostly socially. Like, it's really hard because we are so used to collaborating and doing group work all the time. And so with all the social distancing, that has been really hard and difficult. I feel like with the mask, like it's created like a little bit of a barrier in a way to building relationships between the teacher and the students and among peer groups as well. So I would say that's how it's affected it socially. I think emotionally, it's kind of taking a toll on the staff and students as well, just in general, just everything that COVID is doing to families. It's really creating some struggles with kids, I think, financially, as far as health, as far as just emotional health of having these masks on all the time and remaining distant. I think that it's affected people. I think academically it's came into play too. You know, kids are getting pulled out and quarantined and doing remote learning, and so I think it's putting some people behind in some ways. So sadly, it has affected a lot of areas.
Okay, well, quarantine absences are like a huge thing, in that, again, even if the kids don't necessarily suffer with mental health issues, just not being in the classroom and not maybe feeling as attached to the rest of us versus being gone for like a day or even 3 days when you're sick, you know, being gone more frequently and having their peers being gone, then getting so behind in assignments. Some kids literally will do nothing for my class and be gone for 2 whole weeks. So trying to get them caught up, and especially like even when they're back in the classroom, kind of having to go between like, okay, this is what the class is doing, but this kid is working on that, and this kid was also out for quarantine, so they're working on this. And so it's just like a lot to juggle. Also, like the social interaction is so lacking, which is hard. Like one of my big things in my classroom is like usually I have table groups. Like I never put my desks in rows like they are now, all facing the same direction. Like I always want it so kids can communicate, because I do a lot of turn and talks, and just because I feel like it's a good way for students to kind of try to kind of do hands-on as we go. And so it's hard because they're like, I don't even know who to talk to. At the beginning of the year, you know, kids hadn't had social interactions very much for months, and so they weren't comfortable talking to new people. And I heard someone like kind of describe it as like the masks are like a muzzle on kids, that it's like y'all don't want to talk through them. Of course, we're up here teaching all day, like, no, you can talk through them, and then kids like pulling it down over their mouth so they can talk. I'm like, no, I promise you, it still works. Just talk through the mask.
So I think online learning has affected students positively and negatively, believe it or not. I think the negative side is obviously my students that are solely remote, there's a lot of responsibility that falls on them, meaning I can give them all of the things. I can give them the notes and the examples and the videos, but it's on them to sit down and pay attention and actually watch and learn what I'm trying to teach them. So the negative side is the students who aren't very driven and are remote. Some of them have kind of been in a downward spiral. And, once they get a bunch of missing assignments piled up, it's really hard for them to kind of go back and make up all of those assignments. The positive effect I think it's had, I think it's really taught a lot of students, especially in 8th grade, how to be self-sufficient and kind of learning, you know, when you are a remote student, it's more of a college type setting in the sense of you're taking the initiative to go and find the things that you don't understand. So I think a lot of students, they're learning how to do things more on their own than they would be sitting in the classroom getting everything fed to them every day.
These kids, when they came in our classrooms, were so excited to be at school. Normally the first couple of weeks are really good, like we call it the honeymoon period, because kids they're just, you know, happy for summer to end, you know, they just want to be at school. These kids, I feel like the honeymoon is still going. They're so happy to be in school and not at home that it is great. We've had some parents reach out to the school with just a few concerns about their remote students that don't really feel engaged. They feel like they're missing out. And it's really hard for us because you cannot have that same connection through the computer screen. Like we notice, like, you know, switching between reading and social studies, there's just that chit chat time, or asking a kid, how was your baseball game? Or, you know, what did you and your dog do? Or any of those little tiny conversations that you can have in the classroom while you're kind of killing time. We just didn't feel like we had that. So I really feel like it's not something that we can see right now, but I feel like long term, those kids just aren't getting that from their teachers. So they're probably having a great time being home with mom and dad and such more, but I feel like there's a lot that's missing right now in the classroom that I don't know how that's going to affect them long term. I'm really kind of scared about that.
Okay, 100% yes. So number one, people, as we've already said, have been really detached from each other, and so lacking that human connection. Again, people kind of get in their own little habit hole, and, you know, like we said, like, you're not gonna be up and ready for the day, like all those things that kind of help you feel good. Those outside influences aren't there because you were inside, literally inside your own home. And I thought the other thing, was thought distortions, right? So those thoughts that you have that aren't true, but they kind of guide the way that you think about life. When we have outside people to speak into those things, like peers, teachers, counselors, whoever, they can kind of help us see, hey, you have this unhealthy thought pattern, but that's not actually true. Like, look at all this, look at, you know, how I'm thinking about things, look at how life actually is. And you kind of have people to say that's not real. But when you're all alone, you know, you can kind of get sucked into those thought distortions of, you know, I'm not smart, or I'm worthless, nobody cares if I succeed, it doesn't matter if I finish high school, when those things aren't actually true. So, yeah.
So I don't have a whole lot of experience with that because I don't suffer from it and I don't have family members that suffer from it. So in that regard, I'm not sure if we're most teenagers, but I would say it's different for every grade level. I feel like the stress and anxiety is probably the most on high school students, simply because you guys are the most mobile. You have the opportunity to be independent because you can drive and you can go out. And so I think being sequestered in your house can really cause a lot of those stressors. But having taught middle school, you're still dependent on your parents to drive you around. You're still dependent on all those things. I don't feel like it is as bad in middle school or elementary. They're used to the kind of being at home a lot, not going to see friends, not going out to dinner, not going to games, things like that. So I feel like it's different for every grade level, but high school I feel like probably has it the most, has the stress and anxiety the most.
Yeah, totally.
So for a normal mental health year, we're going to look at 2003 to 2012 that the CDC provided. Most common mental health issues are depression and anxiety, and mostly usually paired together. Anxiety and depression among children 6 through 17 have increased over the years and will keep rising with the world constantly changing. Here are some percentages to provide that information. A large population of mental health illnesses are in high school and middle school student population, but anxiety and depression are more likely seen in increasing ages. In a regular year, 6 out of 10 kids are treated with medicine and therapy. So now we're going to go ahead and take a look at what COVID did to the mental health levels on students.
More than half of students that use mental health services receive at least some service in the school setting, with 35% receiving services exclusively at school. So what exactly happened to these students when schools shut down? Think about it. Texas A&M conducted a study on how COVID affected 195 of their students. Here are some of the results. 71% said that they had increased stress and anxiety from the rising COVID levels. 91% said that they were worried and scared about losing their loved ones. 89% had difficulty concentrating. 86% had disruptions in sleeping patterns, and 82% had an increased concern on academic performance. Although these numbers are for the college level, they can be applied to all ages of students. Could you imagine what the little 5-year-old girl went through when she found out that she couldn't go meet her kindergarten teacher? What the 5th grader felt when they found out that they couldn't walk the halls of their elementary school for the last time? Or what the senior found out when they wouldn't be able to get their prom, or that they might not be able to walk the stage and get their diploma.
Now moving over to mental health in the classroom. Maslow versus Bloom, behind the phrase every teacher should be aware of. Abraham Maslow is notorious for his hierarchy of needs, the framework of the 5 tiers of human needs. American psychologist Benjamin Bloom is responsible for the organized levels of cognitive learning called the taxonomy of educational objectives. Any person needs to have their full set of needs met before they can completely learn and have full cognitive function. A person's development and Maslow's hierarchy directly affects how they are able to learn. This is why the phrase Maslow versus Bloom, Maslow comes first. When kids aren't able to focus on the material because they can't stop thinking about something bothering them, they haven't eaten, or any of their needs haven't been met, then everything they are trying to learn isn't actually being retained and remembered. Because of online school and other educational changes from the impact of COVID, it has recently become more prominent to teachers and parents how important it is that Maslow comes before Bloom. The test scores are proof of how great of an impact stress and anxiety can have on a children's learning capabilities.
In the classroom, fidgets are used as self-regulation tools that help students of all ages. This accommodates so many kids in their sensory processing skills, as long as being able to keep their attention on their teacher. Goal sheets are also used in the classroom. Goal sheets are tools that students can keep in class with them every day and refer back to when they are needed. Each goal sheet has a list of specific things for each student that they can do or read when they are feeling stressed or overwhelmed.
Now that we know some specifics of mental health in the classroom, we're going to make some goal sheets of our own. If you look in the sleeve already located on your table, there is a colored paper already formatted for you. On this, you're going to write down different ways that you can use to relieve stress and anxiety when you get too overwhelmed. There's also crayons located in your sleeves that can be used to do this.
What are some examples we can put on our goal sheet?
So, some of the examples on mine are take deep breaths, think of a good outcome for something you're stressing about, or maybe look up funny videos when you're home and you're doing homework, just things like that. And some things that I do are I'll listen to music, or I'll watch my favorite TV show, or I'll just take a break and to let myself think again.
We'll give you a few minutes to do this, and then we'll go on to the next activity.
If you have any questions, just ask.
Yep.
We also have some examples that can be put up on the board for reference.
Okay, so now that pretty much everybody is done with that activity, we're going to go on to making a bead fidget. For this, you need to take off everything else in your bag, and we'll use that to make the rest of the stuff.
Okay, and while you're pulling stuff out, let's share some examples of what we put on our papers. Trevor, what did you put?
Vote.
Vote? That's a stress reliever?
Well, yeah.
Once every 4 years, stress reliever?
Walk dog, read a book.
Lily, what did you put on yours?
I said take like a 15-minute nap if possible, just kind of.
Power nap?
Yeah, like a power nap, or take some deep breaths.
How about Lily? Spotlight, what'd you put?
I've got read a book and listen to some music.
You like reading?
Oh yeah. Just go outside, let's read a book.
Okay. Does everyone have their tape?
Almost. You can keep talking.
Okay, so these are just like some things like you want to put in your desk when you have free time, like during your classroom. Just pull it out when you need it. Look at it. And like we've used it. Like if I was reading Hamlet for my English class, and I had to read like 5 scenes in a night because I was behind.
And so I was really stressed out, and because of Shakespearean literature and everything. And so I pulled out my sheet, and I looked at it, and I took the 5 breaths or whatever I said on mine. And it really helped me, and I got it done. I got an A, so definitely helps.
The first things you will need, Katie is going to go over. So first, you're going to take your popsicle stick out. Does everybody have their... There you go. I see everybody's popsicle stick.
Yeah, if you don't have to, just let us know, and we'll get it for you.
So we have our popsicle stick. Then you're going to get your pipe cleaner. I do not have one on this table. Now, you're going to take your tape. You're going to take the stick. You're going to put the popsicle stick about like in the middle of it on the one side. And just stick it on. So line up the edge of the popsicle stick with your edge of the tape.
Do you need another piece of tape?
I can get you one.
Yes, please.
Almond, can you put one more?
And again, if you need any help, just ask us. We will.
So that's what it's going to look like.
Yes. I'm gonna put it like in the middle or somewhere.
And it doesn't have to line up perfectly. Okay, everyone good? Okay, so what you're gonna do next is you're just gonna fold it over. And you can kind of use the table to do this. You just like stick it and then fold it over. And you're gonna do that until all of it's covered. Almond. Okay, so then you get your legs. Okay, and then, yeah, so you'll fold it over again one more time so that your whole piece is covered like this. So it'll look like that. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to take your pipe cleaner out of your bag. You're going to wrap one end of it around the thing. Take a good chunk of it because it'll look pretty big, so about that much. And just twist it around the top.
Tightly.
Yes, tightly. And you're going to want to twist it until the shorter piece is all the way around the long piece.
I'm
done. Okay, so from here you're going to take it and wrap and like make a little arc with it and wrap the end around the other side of the popsicle stick like that. Can you play?
Make sure to leave room so you can move the...
Yeah, don't like put it super tight to the stick. Or you can, if that's what you want to do. Yeah, same side for you. And you want to do it the same thing as last time where you want to wrap like the shorter end all the way around the long end. Yeah. You don't want that excess.
How you doing, Kim?
Oh, you have broken hand?
Oh, yeah. Fractured my thumb and my wrist.
Okay, you good? Okay, so you have the two like things that aren't on the popsicle stick, yeah? So what you're gonna do is you're gonna flip it over to the back where you just have those. And you're gonna take one end and fold it over like that. And then you're gonna take one of your small pieces of tape and you're just gonna tape over that spot so that it holds that end down as well as keeps the pipe cleaner in place. And you'll do the same thing on the other end.
When you're done, it should be finished and it should look something like this.
You're supposed to use this. It's supposed to be like board senior citizens, 5-year-olds. What age is supposed to use this?
So really any age can use it, anywhere from like kindergarten to high school. Like it's just something you can like just play with and fidget with.
It helps. It can help anybody focus. It can help anyone in any situation. It's just something little that doesn't distract other people.
Yeah, exactly. The main thing is for it to be a tool, not a toy. So in class, use it to like get your anxiety and stress out, and use it to like give your hands something to do, but don't make it to where it interrupts anybody else in the class who's actually is fine and paying attention and doing their own thing.
We talked to, I think it was Miss Sproul, she said that it should stay under the desk when you're messing with it. It should always be under the desk, that we're not distracting anyone else.
So this is something that Gary always touches his pencil.
And that's exactly what it's for.
Right, the guy who comes, tapping pencils, all that kind of stuff.
Pen, all that kind of stuff. That's
This.
just something for them to do with their hands and get that motion.
So that's our little bean fidget. It's our little takeaway, not your goal sheet. I like it. It's really fun. Thank you.
Now that we've finished our activity, we have a couple of teacher-recommended stress tools that can be used in the classroom.
These can be found at any teacher store, or you can find them in little packages on Amazon.
My fidget is a little stress ball that's textured and you can manipulate it, and it's quiet under a table.
My fidget is a little mesh tube with a marble in it. It is closed on each side so the marble doesn't fall out, and the student can just move the marble around with their finger under the desk so it's not distracting to others.
My fidget's a little pea pod, and you just push the peas out on each side, and it's really small so it's not going to distract anyone.
And I have interconnected triangles that move around and manipulate. It can be easily manipulated under a desk. It also helps boost their creativity as well as help their focus.
These are just a few examples of hands-on stress relievers. However, not all methods have to be hands-on. Things such as free seating, music, and etc. can be used to reduce the stress in classrooms.
If you guys were able to be with us, you could have gone around and tested these little fidgets for yourself to see what works best for you. Sadly, that won't be happening because we moved to a virtual conference.
Thank you so much for following along with us today. We wish you could have been here in person, but we are still so thankful for the opportunity to show you our whole session, even if it's through a video.
To close up, we will be watching another teacher interview video that will sum up what we talked about today and bring our session to an end. Thank you again for coming.
Bye!
In my classroom, like one thing I like to do is just make it a really homey, comfortable environment. And so in years past, we've had a lot of flexible seating. Sadly, that had to go away because of COVID, but I still really try to make it feel homey. Like I like to use a lot of lamps and lights and kind of keep the lights dim when we can. I love to play classical music, and I play the same classical music in my classroom so that way the kids just get used to it and it's just kind of like a comfort to them. I also let them have seating that they get to choose. When we can do that, we kind of have to contact trace a little more this year, but I like to let them choose where they want to sit. And it's still okay if they, want to sit on the floor or sit on a rug or sit in a desk or sit on the desk some days. That way they just have a little bit of freedom and flexibility. I also allow them to listen to music one day a week as long as the assignment permits it as well.
Okay, so I am a firm believer that kids need to wiggle, some kids more than others. So in the past, I have always had a pretty fun classroom. I had a couch in here. I had 5 or 6 yoga balls. My kids kind of rotated through that they could use yoga balls for the day. I had flexible seating. I had some video rockers. And so we moved around the classroom a lot. This year, though, we were told we can't have anything that's not like regular school chairs, regular school desks. And so I had to get rid of all of my flexible seating. I even had a floor table. Like I took the legs off of a table and had some floor pillows, and I mean, some kids loved it.
I use everything. I think just as the older I've gotten, raised 3 kids, the more I realize, I teach freshmen, and I taught 8th grade and I taught 7th grade, and you guys are just bigger kids and you act like kids. And so if I want you to be successful at something, if you need to fidget with something, that's fine. If you need to stand up and walk around, that's fine. If you need to chew gum, that's fine. As long as you're not disrupting anybody else, that's fine. The one thing that I do that's different than some other teachers do is I always have my lights off. I have these lights around. I'm always playing background music. And really just give kids space to breathe. I do like the alternative seating, but I kind of went away from that because it was a huge fad for a while and kids were getting tired of sitting on the floor or having to choose their alternative seating. I can't do it right now, but generally I do. Generally I like to do it.
duh. But along with that, I think it's important that your students know that you care about them. I think back to the teachers that had the biggest impact on me, and they were the teachers that made me feel like I was cared for and I was listened to. So I think checking up on your students and how they're doing mentally shows students that it's just more than, in my case, a math classroom. We're not just learning math, but we're building relationships and hopefully helping students to become better people. And so, you know, if there's somebody that is noticeably having a bad day, I'll make sure to check up on them. And, you know, just periodically throughout the year, seeing how students are doing is, I think, a part of that building a relationship piece. And the more you know your students, the easier it is to tell when they are having a bad day, and being able to check on them and letting them know that you do care for them.
Checking up on your students and how they're doing mentally is important to me, and it always has been, and it's more so this year. So we do small group reading and small group math, and I try to touch base with kids when we're doing our morning meeting. Everybody has an opportunity to share, and if somebody passes, like they have the choice to pass if they don't want to share, I usually go talk to that individual student just to make sure something didn't happen or if they're okay. I try really hard to write little notes and happy, positive little messages, and like probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 times this year I've written kids cards and sent them to them in their mail, so they get something at home where it's from their teacher to just tell them, like for Thanksgiving, I wrote why I was thankful for them and sent it in a little card. And in October, it was like a happy, have fun at Halloween and be safe kind of a thing, just to help them know that I love them and that I want what's best for them and care about them.
This year has probably been the most challenging because now I have 4 preps, and I'm not sure if you know what that means. I have to prep for 4 different classes. So that it's more time consuming for me to write everything. And then I think the message that people see in the mornings with me is that I just sit at my desk all morning, because my first 2 classes are face-to-face and I have kids on Zoom. So I'm at my desk for 2 periods. And then my 4th period is completely virtual. So again, I'm at my desk the whole time. So I think that's probably been the biggest challenge. It's really hard to keep up with all 4 of my preps and making sure everybody's needs are met digitally and in person.
So the hardest thing that's been a part of this year, online and in person, it's just the masks is not as personal as it usually is. I smile a lot, and it's harder to tell that in a mask. With the in-person learning, I'm battling with myself between, I want them to work together, but I also want them to keep their distance, and knowing that when they leave my classroom, when students leave my classroom, they're cluttered up together in the hallways. And so, you know, a big part of my philosophy as a teacher is being able to learn from other students and being able to explain things to other students, and keeping kids apart in the classroom. It's hard to do that. The hardest thing about the remote learning is not knowing my students. I mean, some of my students that come in and don't turn their cameras on and don't say anything to me, that are remote, they're just a name on a piece of paper to me, unfortunately, because I don't know what they look like. I don't know what they sound like. It's very impersonal. And that's been very challenging. And to, you know, try to teach remotely and to only have 45 minutes for me to teach these kids remotely, it's been difficult because of a time thing and because of the technology piece just not being the same. It's just not the same this year. It's been challenging, but
yeah. Probably the most challenging thing is just like feeling that disconnect from my students. It's always funny because I've always said, like in the past, prior to COVID, that I became a teacher because I really love science and like the kids are pretty cool. And like since then I've kind of reversed that. I'm like, oh, my kids are awesome. Like that is why I show up every day. That's why I go home and like work for hours. That is why like I do my best to find things that are interesting to them. and not feeling connected to them is just like rough, because I feel like almost part of my motivation is lost and I don't want it to be. So I try to just spur myself on. And you know, I have a few of those kids, little pockets of kids like that this year who I've really connected with. But it's just like hard to feel like, what if these kids like don't know that I really care about them and I want them to do really well? Like, what if they don't know that they can actually reach out and ask me questions? Because even though I say it, you know, it's like, Dr. Myers can tell me, you can come down and talk to me anytime. But am I gonna do that? No. And so I think it's the same idea with the kids, that you can say it, but unless you have that connection, they don't know that you mean it. And so trying to forge that is just challenging.
The stress that students are under right now will have a lasting effect on their education. I feel like this epidemic is just going to affect everybody differently across the board, all ages. I think little kids are later going to realize things that they might need to go talk to somebody about. I feel like their education is not what it needs to be, and so they're not in a mental state to learn right now because they are worried about their grandmas getting sick or their parents getting sick, or if they're going to have to stay home, or is their friend sick. I think there's things that we haven't even discovered. I think next year, all of our kids, like even coming back from the spring, everybody had shifted down. Like I would say across the board, all my kids on every district, like cumulative assessment that we've given this year, everybody's been lower. Reading levels across the board, everybody's been lower. And I think that's because of how we're teaching, and I think it's on top of the stress that COVID is just causing for everyone, teachers, kids. I think you're going to lose teachers. I think teachers are stressed and worried about being in a classroom with kids and not knowing where those kids have been. So I feel like there's things that in the years to come, we're going to realize that this has a bigger effect on everyone.
For future educators, oh, my heart is out to you. Like, it is such a rewarding career. Like, don't let people scare you away from it. Is it glorious? Not always. Does it pay really well? No, but it is so rewarding for so many ways. Like, I can't imagine having any other career that is as fulfilling as being an educator. Like, I would just say, just go into it with an open mind and just know that it's going to be hard. It's going to be a lot of work, way more work than they say that it's going to be, but that you're going to love it too. Like, those relationships that you build with your kids, they will last forever, and you really can have a forever impact on kiddos.
So I've always had this advice, but I feel like it's been affirmed this year, and I feel like some of the other teachers maybe are like hearing me more when I say it, and that's just be patient. Like, if a kid is tardy, does it really matter? You know, like, of course, like there can be reasons why it matters if it's consistent or if they're doing something they're not supposed to, but if they're like a few minutes late, okay, come down and like join the lesson. Like, that's all you need to do. If the homework is a day late and they had something going on, like they had a big game, like celebrate the game and take the homework and don't take points off. Like, I just think that some people could loosen up a little bit, and I think the reason they don't is because they're worried they'll have a negative impact on their students, but I really think that it could have a bigger positive impact on them by giving them a little bit of grace.
So money, saying yes, time, your family, I don't know, there's a lot. It's not like it used to be. It is harder. It is a job that is emotional. It's a job that is physical. You just really need to think about if that's really what you want to do, and if you're going to make some sacrifices, and if that's okay, or be really, really good at balance. And not to discourage anyone, because I love it and I can't imagine, and every so often I'll get really stressed out and think, okay, what else am I going to do? And there's not anything else, because I love kids and working with kids, but it's a hard job. Now I'm going to cry and I'm going to stop. Okay.
The first thing I would say is you need to love your content. If you don't love it, the kids know it, they're not going to want to learn it. You need to realize that they're just kids. Even if they're 18, they're still Their brain's still not fully developed. They're going to make dumb decisions. They're going to make stupid mistakes. You need to have grace, and you need to love them. The biggest thing for me is I love kids. I love getting to know them. Connections are important. I feel like the more I know about them, the better I can help them. And I can figure out the way they think, the way they learn, and best serve them. So connections to me is probably the most important thing. You're not going to get anything out of a kid if you can't make a connection with them.
So advice to educators, I would say as you guys are still in school, like think of the teachers. You're going to have teachers for the rest of high school, the rest of college. Think about the teachers that really stand out and why they stand out to you, and try to implement some of that when you become a teacher, because at the end of the day you want to be a teacher with a lasting impact. So think about the teachers that had a lasting impact on you and why, and try to kind of mimic that when you guys go into the classroom. And teaching is the best job. It's difficult, but it truly is so rewarding at the end of the day. And I think if you're meant to be a teacher, you will find your way into teaching. So you have to have perseverance, and you have really, really hard days, but your good days definitely outweigh the hard days.